Hello, 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 everybody. All right, today we're going to continue talking about percents and parts of numbers. The difference today is that we're going to be finding all different pieces of the equation. So yesterday we talked when it is simply just find the percent of a number. When it is find the percent of a number, we simply know that we change the percent to a decimal and then we multiply. Well, what happens if we're missing different pieces? And that's where today and tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the percent proportion. So what this is we're going to set up a proportion with two equal fractions. And so off to the side, I want you to write this. And it is actually here, but we're going to learn better by writing it as well. And what we learn is that the percent proportion that we're going to make is that we will always set the part over the whole and put it equal to the percent over 100. Now, we always knew percent is over 100 because percent is out of 100. Well, if we're talking and making equivalent ratio here, so an equivalent proportion, then we would put the part over the whole. And that's why we set this up. So for instance, if I was looking for 50, that 10 out of 20 is 50% out of 100, correct? And so if I were to tell you, hey, find 50% of 20, you'd get 10. That's great. We know that. This is why the percent proportion works. Now, what we're going to be learning today is what happens if we're missing what it's out of, the whole, or what happens if we're missing the percent. How do we find those missing pieces? And so I actually just realized I forgot. Sometimes we call the part and the whole something different. So we're going to write other names for it too. The part, sometimes we call it the is. And I'll explain why in a minute. And the whole, sometimes we call of. Is over of. And that's because this is usually, the whole represents usually what it's out of. That's where the of comes from. So right here, see these, the type. Find the percent, use this proportion. Find the part, use this proportion. Find the whole, use this proportion. This graph is super important, and we are going to refer back to it often. Okay, so here we go. So it says in a percent proportion, one ratio or fraction compares part of a quantity to the whole. The other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So what do we do here? Well, I find it best to just dive in here. So we are actually going to skip this example and go straight to this got it problem. So it says, what percent of 25 is 20? Well, what don't we know? We don't know the percent. So if I look back to the top of the page, if I need to find the percent, I'm going to use this proportion. So I'm going to have something over something equals a variable over 100. So my proportion, we don't know the percent, but that's that ratio. Now the other ratio, we're going to use this 25 and 20. What percent of 25 is 20? Well, it's saying the part is 20, and it's out of 25. And you'll notice a couple of things. Do you guys remember how I also said it was is over of, not just part over whole? So I know just what percent of 25. That means what percent out of 25 is the 20. So the of was 25 and the is 20. So then I go to solve this. Does anyone remember how to solve it? Okay. There's multiple ways that we learn to solve, but the best way, the easiest, to be honest, this is the easiest way is to figure out 25 times 4 gets me 100. So 20 times 4 gets me 80. So this would be 80. And because it says what percent, my answer would be 80%. Now, if you didn't see this, or maybe you didn't know that, what I would have suggested you do, I'm going to erase this, is using your cross products. Does everyone remember how we found our cross products? Our cross products, if this lets me erase, which it's not, so we are going to just rewrite it up here. So again, I had, oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and see if this will work. Let's just restart. Sorry, guys. Let's rewrite this. So if I had 20 over 25 equals x over 100. My cross products is by saying multiply the diagonals. This gets me 2,000. This gets me 25 times x. And because they are proportional, and these are my cross products, these would be equal to each other. So to find 25 times what gets me 2,000, I divide 2,000 divided by 25, and I would have gotten 80. Okay? So let's look at letter B. $12.75 is what percent of 50? Again, this is looking for a what percent. So if it's looking for a what percent, I'm going to have my x over 100. And I've got to figure out what my is over my of, my part over my whole. Well, $12.75 is what percent of 50? Well, it's saying the $12.75 is the percent, so therefore that goes on top of 50. So I would put 50 on bottom. Now again, this one I find easier just to say, hey, well, 50 times 2 gets me 100. So I should be able to just do 1275 times 2, and I get 25.5. Now because this is again a percent, so over here I'm going to write 25.5%. How are we doing? Any questions so far? All right. We are going to skip over all the way to the guided practice for a moment, and I want you to do number 1. Again, this is on page 124. I want you to do number 1.